Hey guys, this is Chigger here at JTech, and tonight I'm going to be talking about torque converters. Now, one of the first things you really need to know about a torque converter is that this is not typically a part that you're going to take apart and rebuild. Typically with these, it's just going to be an R&R, and remove and replace. But for this video's sake and for learning purposes, this one has been taken apart and disassembled. That way we can go through the components that are inside of it. So, next thing you need to know about a torque converter is that it is a type of fluid coupling which transfers rotating power from a prime mover, like your internal combustion engine, to a rotating driven load. Now, there were earlier types of these used for automatic transmissions are a little bit different than the more advanced versions now. But a fluid coupling is a two-element drive that is incapable of multiplying torque. The difference is a torque converter has at least one extra element, which is a stator, which allows and alters the drive's characteristics during periods of high slippage, and it increases an output torque. So rather than losing torque, you're actually gaining it. So, different components on it. You're going to have your front cover. So this is the cover, and this is the part where your flywheel or your plate is going to connect. So, then you've got your next part. So you've got your clutch assembly, which is attached to your turbine. Now this is going to be free spinning inside of it. Now, the stator is typically stated as such because it's supposed to be a stationary part, but there are certain times when it does actually move. So you have your stator, and then you have your impeller, and you have your bearings that go into these, your Torrington bearings. So this is actually the end, the input shaft, which is going to connect the turbine to the end of the transmission. So this is going to be your driving force. So the components fit back together. So you get to a point where you have a lockup. So you have a friction material up here, which is going to be similar to like you would have for your brake pads. So what it does is when it goes into lockup, it pushes up and it meshes up against this, which is going to cause that locking force. So it's going to adjust like your pistons squeezing in the caliper and causing contact with your pad to your rotor. So, as torque converters are always used for automatic transmissions, it's a little more complicated than a manual, but it's really not too difficult. As I said, this is typically not a part that you're going to take apart and rebuild. But you want your torque converter to do its job. It's supposed to multiply the torque when the output rotational speed is so low that it allows the fluid coming off the curved vanes of the turbine to be deflected off the stator while it is locked against its one-way clutch. It provides the equivalent of a gear reduction, or a reduction gear. So, it's a little more complicated than just a simple fluid coupling, but they're definitely a very useful invention. Now, you have your three elements that we talked about. So your impeller, which is mechanically driven by your engine, your turbine, which drives your load, and then your stator, which is in between the impeller and the turbine, so it can alter the flow of your fluid. It is transmission fluid that keeps this thing running. It's not something that you want to mess up or to lock up on you. So you always want to make sure that you're taken care of. And unless you really want to, or unless you have a shop that will do it for you, again, this is typically just something that you're going to want to replace.
You got it?
So, I'm not sure what else needs to be said. So, that's torque converter. Thanks.